Hey, it was a balmy -10. That's right, 10 below zero when our friends of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, awoke this morning. It's nice and warm, though, inside the sports pavilion where the action is heating up. Exciting women's gymnastics on your Big Ten network. Michigan 6-2, Minnesota 1-1. As we welcome you to two teams ranked in the top 20 nationally. Hi again, everybody. Wolverines, of course, are 19. Minnesota is number 20. First conference action for the Gophers. And speaking of the Wolverines, great to welcome our friend Eddie Humphrey alongside. Name familiar, a former All-American for Michigan, man that was third nationally in the floor in the NCAA a couple of years ago. Let's talk about the Gophers first, though, Eddie, and that culture of commitment that Meg and Jim Stevenson bring to this program.
Yes, the Stevensons bring a rich culture of winning to the University of Minnesota, as their last big win over Michigan came at the 2006 Big Ten Championships. So I'm sure they've reminded their team before the competition to try to do that as they come out and compete against Michigan.
Speaking of the competition, it's not just any opponent. I mentioned the first conference action for the Gophers, an opponent, Michigan I'm talking about, that's beaten Minnesota 17 of the last 18 years.
They have a great reputation. They've got a beautiful new facility. Ann Arbor's a wonderful town. You get a degree from Michigan. That's big league education. They've got a lot to attract recruits, and it makes it tough to compete against them. I mean, we have a lot of the same things going for us. Our biggest problem in competing with them is that when we have taken our team to the national championships, we have not been able to generate repeated appearances in a row. And where that makes a difference is in recruiting. Our best recruiting is the year following an appearance at the NCAA championships. And if you don't get back there, you can feel that the tier of potential candidates you're working with, that drops off just slightly.
Eddie, of course, knows about the Michigan men's program. What about the Wolverines, though? Coach Bev Plotke in her 20th year. How about 15, count them, 15 Big Ten titles? That's beyond impressive.
When Bev Plotke first came to Michigan, she decided that she wanted to really change the thought process and expectation of the Michigan team. And in doing so, she's approaching 200 conference wins, as well as becoming one of Michigan's most all-time winningest coaches.
Which is more fun, the floor or doing TV?
Whichever pays better.
We'll figure it out. When we come back, Michigan on the road against Minnesota. Exciting women's gymnastics right here from the campus of the University of Minnesota on the Big Ten Network. The Big Ten Network. Welcome back to the Sports Pavilion here on the campus of the University of Minnesota. An exciting dual meet between the Wolverines and the Gophers. Michigan opens up first up on the uneven bars. Gophers at home on the vault. And for Minnesota, 17 years. Jim Stevenson has been the head coach. 2 Big Ten titles back in '98 and '06. And his wife has been co-coach for 12 of those 17 years. Before that, 5 years, Meg was an assistant coach. And Bev Plotke, what a run she's had. Before arriving in Ann Arbor, the Wolverines had won 1 Big Ten title. Since she's been there, 15 of the last 17 years. That is impressive. And the series history dominated by the Wolverines, as Eddie and I alluded to. Michigan defeating the Gophers in every meet since 1999, every dual meet. First up for the Gophers, it'll be the 21-year-old senior out of Bismarck, North Dakota, Jade Beatty.
And we see a front handspring tuck with a half twist. Not a vault that you see very commonly.
Because?
A lot on vault is the most common vault you'll just see today is a Yurchenko entry vault, which means the girls do a round off with their feet on the board, back handspring onto the horse, and flip off the horse.
Jade competed on vault in all but 1 meet last year, missing 1 competition because of an ankle injury, and a career-high 9.800 at Iowa. Leading off for Michigan on the bars, 2-time state champion, the 21-year-old senior out of Aurora, Illinois, Hunneth Lohr. Coach Bev watching there, left-hand side of your screen. And encouraging. How important are the first 10-15 seconds in a routine like this?
Well, especially being the first performance of the day, it's the most important part of the day. You want to get the team started off just right, because a fall or mess up here could kill the momentum for the rest of the meet. And we're going to be seeing a brand new dismount from Hunneth Lohr, a double layout. She usually competes a double pike. See how she executes it. And a good landing. Just a small hop, but done very nicely.
Got the most improved gymnast award a couple of seasons ago, and the dismount.
Here she is cranking for the double layout. 2 flips in the straight body position. Just a small, tiny hop. Great start for the Wolverines.
Solid start for the SOS major.
During a team competition, if everyone on the bars was to take a step, that's 5/10 from your team score.
How about the super freshman now, Lucy Ennis out of Roseville, Minnesota, nearby. Trained at the Twin City Twisters Club with Mike Hunger and Sammy Wozni.
What I really love about this vault is her block.
For folks at home, what exactly do you mean by block?
Well, the block is the hand placement on the horse. If you watch the shoulder position and elbow position, and what you'll notice with her vault is that her arms are completely straight, allowing her to block from her shoulders, giving her more of a block, more pop off the horse. Right there.
For the Wolverines on the bar, Marine Moody.
Jade Beatty and her score a second ago on the vault, 9.650. Marine Moody now out of East Lansing, Michigan. Missed 5 meets last year in the sophomore season with a foot injury.
And she's having a little bit of trouble from the start.
What does that do to your performance? What does it do to your confidence?
Well, right now she's gonna receive a 5/10 deduction for the fall, and she was actually supposed to go over the bar right into an immediate release.
Lore and how she scored on the bar for the Gophers, 9.725. Now her confidence is shattered, right, Eddie?
It is. It's tough to recover from this after 2 falls. So meaning right now she can only score a highest of a 9.0 with 2 falls.
What happens when you get shaky right at the start? What does it do for you and your teammates for the rest of the meet?
You know, it's very difficult because you never plan on missing a routine in a competition. So it's always a little bit different if you do come off the apparatus. But as a team, you have to pull yourself together if you want to finish this meet the right way.
So a disappointing start for the junior out of East Lansing, Michigan. And
this is the dismount.
Yuri Nagai for the Gophers, the sophomore.
There's the Yurchenko entry we talked about, and her landing is a little bit low.
When you land low, what happened?
Well, first things first is it's never good for your ankles to land low. And being a coach at Gym America, back at a club gym in Michigan, the #1 thing that I tell the kids on vault is always take a step backwards. At this point, being young, I don't want them to think about sticking, because you could land short and really hurt your ankles. So that's something that I really stress is landing upright. Try to think about taking a step backwards just to save your ankles.
And what Lucy Ennis did for the Gophers on the vault just a second ago, 9.725. So Minnesota off to a fast start on the vault. And the 21-year-old junior out of Reno, Nevada, Sarah Curtis. Exuberant at the start. They need a little pick-me-up on the bars so far, your Wolverines, huh?
They've struggled a little bit, but bars tends to be one of the stronger events for the Wolverines. And after fall, let's see how they can recover from that.
Sarah's best on the bars this season, 9.800.
And that release move that we saw from the high bar to the low bar is called a pack salto. A backflip where you re-catch the low bar.
You saw Marine Moody's score. She struggled. Sarah Curtis, the 21-year-old, trying to bounce back from a torn Achilles.
And that's the pickup that the Wolverines are looking for. Routine done very nicely. Here's the pack salto. Backflip, re-catch, keeps on moving.
And a good score for the biology major, who was all first-team Big Ten as a sophomore. Middle of rotation #1 here at the Sports Pavilion. Minnesota on the vault and the Wolverines on the bars. More action coming up. Back on the campus of the University of Minnesota, and a programming note, it's 30 minutes more dedicated to the world of Big Ten women's athletics. The kind of coverage you just can't get anywhere else. The Big Ten Women's Show, Mondays at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, only here on the Big Ten Network. Alexis Russell. You talk about a gal that's got personality plus. The junior out of South Maplewood, Minnesota.
She was the team's highest vault scorer last year. Yurchenko full. Very nicely done. Just a small hop forwards. But a good routine for the Gophers.
Gal that loves to compete, plays to her weaknesses, and she says, in her words, replaces them with her strengths.
And watch the landing, just a small little hop.
Best on the vault so far this year for her, 9.800 out of Tartan High School. Tatiana Tina-Rego next up. Senior out of Miami, Florida, on the bars for the Wolverines.
And this is a good event for her. She was actually the runner-up at the last 2 Big Ten championships on this event.
She was the Wolverines' most valuable performer 2 years ago. Out of the Universal Gymnastics Club.
She tied for first place at her last competition with Becky Bernard, teammate.
Sarah Curtis for the Wolverines, 9.825. Tatiana, senior, how important is senior leadership to a squad like this?
Well, senior leadership is huge for any team. Any type of leadership that you can get from your seniors, especially being experienced, you really need that from your seniors. And that's the type of leadership that you want to have, going out and knocking out a big routine after a slow start from the Wolverines.
21 years of age, Tatiana Tina-Rego. You want a gal that defines captain? Right here. Carmelina Carbajal, all first team Big Ten on the vault for Minnesota.
Another Yurchenko full. What I really like about the vault is how she opens up and flares out the vault. Gives it a little bit of style.
Best on the vault this year for the Gophers, 9.800 for the gal from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
My hometown.
Kinesiology major who will go on and study nursing.
Very nicely done.
Another senior that provides leadership for Bev Plocky's Michigan Wolverines, the gal from Stowe, Ohio, the senior, 21 years of age, Becky Bernard.
What I really love about this routine is her pirouette work. One of the best pirouette workers in the country.
On the bar, Wolverine, Becky Bernard.
A lot of the pirouette work is something that you don't see a lot in college gymnastics.
Why?
And we'll see it right here from the start. It's a tricky skill. A 1.5 pirouette directly to handstand, to a full pirouette, to a bell handstand. Beautifully done. To a double layout and a step on the landing. But you gotta love that pirouette work.
Do you know when you're in mid-flight, Eddie, if you're going to nail the landing or if you're a little off? Do you know?
Yeah, a lot of times you do. It depends on if you have good air awareness or not. Some athletes flip with their eyes open. Other athletes flip with their eyes closed and kind of feel where they're at.
Carmelina Carbajal, and what she did on the vault, 9.825 for the senior captain of the Gophers. Now the sophomore from nearby Plymouth, Minnesota, Kendra Elm.
In warm-up, she nailed the vault. Let's see if she can repeat that. And she's short.
What happens when you end up short like that, Eddie?
Well, it started, she was a little bit soft on the horse. What I was talking about earlier with the bent arms. As you can see here on the horse, she comes on a little bit low, arms are bent. And at that point, you don't get the big block that you would like to have to get you airtime to finish your full twist.
Loves the challenge of competing every day, the glitter and the sparkle she talked about, but especially Minnesota stitched on her back. Kylie Boderman, what a future she's got. Just the sophomore for the Wolverines out of New Lenox, Illinois, and Lincoln Way Central High School. Best on the bars so far this year, 9.90.
And she's actually going to be competing all around for the first time in her collegiate career today. Blind full pirouette to a huge release move. That's called a Tkachev, also known as a reverse head. And she does her transition to the low bar, or straddle back, which is a requirement to transition from high to low. Winding up for her dismount. Full twisting double layout. And a great routine for bottom. Big start.
Big Ten floor champion in her debut as a freshman. Here's a look at the dismount.
What I really like, she gets her toes up high on the dismount, which gives her a little bit more lift, which you need to do a full twisting double layout.
Kylie was first team NCAA All-America on the uneven bars as a freshman and just getting better. Just a second ago, Becky Bernard for the Wolverines, 9.850.
Another good score for the Wolverines.
Eddie Humphrey and company are tabulating the scores from the first rotation. We'll show you those. And when we come back to the campus of the University of Minnesota, the second rotation in our dual meet. The Wolverines on the vault, the Gophers at home move to the uneven bar. Williams Arena, where they play basketball, and right across the street, the magnificent new TCF Stadium, where Tim Brewster's Gopher football team will really welcome some record crowds. Inside, action heating up the dual meet. The Michigan Wolverines and the Gophers at home. A programming note, the Big Ten Network is looking for its most passionate fans. Some are here. The Big Ten Network wants to reward its loyal viewers with chances to win great prizes like tickets to a big game, TVs, iPods, and much, much more. Register now at thebigtennetwork.com. There's a future super fan on your screen, huh? A little snack. How the Gophers did on the vault, and the best up there, the team captain, Carmelina Carball, 9.825. Meanwhile, Michigan Wolverines, a little stutter step on the uneven bars, huh?
Yeah, they stuttered a little bit, but they picked up very well, which is what you want to see from your team, is you have some adversity, keep on moving.
Team standings then, Eddie, after the first rotation. Did you learn anything?
Well, we saw that Minnesota did put up a harder vault lineup, but a couple landings cost them in the scores. And we saw that Michigan recovered well from that first fall that they had to take an early lead.
What a great story this gal is. Jacqueline Kramer was a walk-on and wins a full scholarship.
That's just amazing, and that's true testament to all the kids watching at home. That hard work doesn't go unseen. And a good vault, a Yurchenko layout. Right now, she's actually training a 10-0 vault, hoping to put a half twist on that vault.
And you saw the long strides. I mean, being a little bit taller, does that help at all, or does it not matter at all?
You know, it doesn't matter. It's all about finding your steps, whether you're short, whether you're tall, whether you take really short, tiny steps. It's all about finding your steps, because if you're off one bit, you could miss the board completely.
Out of West Hills, New York, Jacqueline Kramer. Julie Canal has a younger sister, Brittany, who's also a gymnast, three-time qualifier to the Junior Olympic Level 10. The sophomore out of Tempe, Arizona, Julie Canal for Minnesota.
As you'll find with a lot of the athletes tonight, there's a lot of smart girls out here competing. Julie was actually a nominee for the Medical National Youth Leadership Forum of Medicine in high school.
Saw Jackie Kramer and her score for Michigan on the vault.
She's gearing up for the end of her routine here. A blind change full pirouette, right to handstand, immediate double tuck. Stuck. That was a great fight on the landing, not to give away a 10th deduction for the step.
I mean, you're battling, you don't want to give up, right?
No, never. You never want to give up. You want to fight for every single 10th, because many times a competition might come down to that one step.
Best on the bars for Coach Meg and Jim earlier this year, 9.725 for Julie Canal. Tatiana Tina Rego out of Miami, Florida, the 21-year-old, will run the vault now for the Wolverines.
This is a very interesting vault. This is the only competitor who you will see do this vault tonight. It is a Chenko half-on pike off. We'll see if she can execute it. And she does. Huge. Stuck it cold and clean.
Eddie, how precise do you have to be on the vault for everything to go as you want it to?
Well, there's a lot that can go wrong. If your steps are off,
And if your board placement is wrong, it could end in disaster. Everything has to be just right, especially on a Yurchenko vault. Your hands have to be in the right place. Your feet have to be in the right place on the board. Everything has to be just about perfect.
Good run there for the poli-sci major, Tatiana Tinarego. The sophomore out of Maryville, Tennessee for the Gophers now, Yuri Nagai.
She's actually a native of Japan.
Japan to Tennessee to the University of Minnesota, the sophomore.
A blind to a half turn, another half turn to another back salto, as we saw Sarah Curtis do earlier. She did that with a lot of high amplitude. Tip cast handstand to a full twisting double tuck. Stuck. Great routine.
Out of the Premier Athletic Club. Best on the bars so far this year, 9.825. What do you like about the release?
I love the release, how much amplitude she got on it. You could see that she had a little bit of a leg split, though.
Next up for the Wolverines, the senior out of Aurora, Illinois, Hunneth Lohr, the 21-year-old. Best on the vault so far in 09, 9.725. Here we go.
She struggled a little bit in warm-ups. Let's see what she does. No problems there.
That looked like a practice run. I mean, very relaxed.
Great, and that's what I love about Hunneth when she competes. She doesn't show any nervousness, no nerves. She just gets out there, does her job.
Who gave you, Eddie, the best advice as far as the vault on the run-up and what you're supposed to think about?
On the run-up, well, both of my brothers were gymnasts, and I get a lot of advice from them, and they said, you just book it down there.
A 2007 graduate of nearby Wayzata High School, a National Honor Society member, just a sophomore, Kendra Elm for the Gophers.
She tied for third in the all-around dual meet against Denver.
Yuri Nagai and how she did for the Gophers on the bars, 9.800. Kendra Elm's best on the bars so far this year, 9.775. And on the vault for the Wolverines, Hunneth Lohr, 9.700.
So far, we're seeing a good routine. A double out dismount, and just a little bit of a step, but a good routine.
What's the hardest part of the routine for the gals on the bars?
Well, the biggest thing for these girls is a lot of the little details, like doing a cast perfectly in a handstand. If a gymnast is short, they can get a half a tenth or a tenth deduction if they're not hitting those handstands. So it's really comes down to a lot of these little bitty tenths.
Gophers at home. It's their first conference action and a dual meet with the Wolverines halfway through rotation number 2. Kylie Botterman coming up next for Michigan, and Carmelina Carbajal from Minnesota. Arena here in Minnesota. A programming note, the Big Ten tonight, your ultimate source for all things Big Ten. It's the nightly show for highlights, analysis of all today's Big Ten action, interviews, scores, and highlights, and so much more. The Big Ten tonight, only here on the Big Ten Network. Check your local listings. This gal loves the vault. Sarah Curtis, the junior out of Reno.
And a good vault, another good vault from the Wolverines. They're staying consistent over here.
9.825 has been Sarah's best so far. What do you like here?
I really like the block. Again, it's one of the main points I stress to any of the kids when I coach is the block. Coming on with straight arms so that the block comes through the shoulders and it's nice and powerful and high.
Sarah Curtis, all Big Ten first team last year for Michigan. We talked about senior leadership. Here is Carmelina Carbajal. I asked Jim Stevenson, the coach, who will succeed and fill those rather large shoes, and then Carmelina's reaction. Jim said, that's a good question. We don't know.
I feel flattered. I mean, I'm glad that I've been showing such a good leadership role on the team, but I'm confident that there's going to be somebody or more than one person for the job next year. So I'm not worried.
The senior now, 21 years of age, Carmelina Carbajal out of New Mexico on the uneven bars for the Gophers.
And coincidentally, I actually trained at the same gym as her, Albuquerque Gymnastics, as well as graduated from the same high school, Cueva High School. We saw that release move was a ginger, a little bit loose with the form.
Sarah Curtis and a 9.775 for the Wolverines over on the vault.
Full twisting double back. The dismount had a lot of amplitude. You can see the speed that she built up for that dismount.
Carmelina was the Gophers' leading scorer in 11 of 14 meets last year. You talk about a picture of consistency right there on your screen.
You can see when she did that first flip, she was completely above the bar.
Kylie Potterman now for the Wolverines over on the vault.
She's a very explosive gymnast.
When you say explosive, what do you mean?
She's got a lot of quick twitch muscles, a lot of power, and a perfect vault. It doesn't get much better than that.
That also looked like practice. I mean, just very relaxed. You could tell in the gait and the run-up.
And she really didn't have a terrifically fast run, but she has such good technique on the horse, good form in the air, that she makes up for it.
Kylie Potterman out of New Lenox, Illinois. Two-time All-America for the Wolverines and two-time All-Big Ten. I asked Alexis what she liked about competing before the meet tonight. She said to prove to herself that no challenge goes unsolved. This gal's got personality plus. She might have a bright future either in television or in politics. I mean, she's got that kind of personality, Eddie.
Well, she loves to sing, dance, and she loves to act. So anybody watching out there, talent agents, maybe this might be your girl.
Missed 4 meets with a knee injury last year. The gal from South Maplewood, Minnesota, Tartan High School.
And you can see she has her left knee wrapped.
She might be a candidate to replace Carbajal as captain after Carmelina graduates.
You know, after Carmelina leaves, they're going to need some leadership, and Stevenson thinks it's going to have to come from Russell. And watch this move here. It's called a Shaposhnikova. Right there. Very well done. And that's one of the requirements, is you have to transfer from either the low to the high bar or the high to the low bar. And from most of the gyms tonight, you saw from the high to the low, she switched up a little bit, went from the low bar to the high bar. And ended with the double lat. It was a little bit piked, but still a great routine.
Great smile, just an electric performance right there. Got a wink from the coach and hugs from the teammates.
And the crowd is loving it. From a free hit position, she throws back, reverses direction, and catches the bar.
Best on the bars this year for Alexis Russell, 9.825. We'll check her score and see if she can beat that. Taylor Zondervan, the sophomore, out of Schoolcraft High School. Went to Oklahoma for a time.
And this could be a new vault. And she stopped on it.
Exactly, you stopped.
Well, in her past 2 competitions, she's been competing a layout. They were hoping that she would probably do a full today.
Where does she stop right there?
Well, it looked like she just came on a little bit high, and it didn't feel right to her, so she stopped on it to keep herself safe.
Went to Oklahoma August to December of '07. Did not compete in gymnastics. Now one of Coach Blocky's rising stars, Taylor Zondervan. Last up for the Minnesota Golden Gophers over on the uneven bars, the sophomore out of Pomona, California, and Diamond Ranch High School, Kristen Furukawa.
A National Honor Society member.
Honor roll throughout all 4 years of high school. Included in the who's who among high school seniors. Actually coached some younger gymnasts, ages 3 to 6. And Alexis Russell on what she did for the Gophers in the bars, 9.825. Zondervan on the vault, 9.225.
You mentioned that she coached younger kids, and it's great to see these college athletes who are busy with school, busy with athletics, and they still make time to give back to the kids a little bit. It's great to see.
Worked with Trent and Jill Spalding at the Diamond Elite Scats Club back in Pomona.
And I'm sure they'll be proud of that routine.
Big smile there for Kristen Furukawa.
Great routine. She has nice, clean lines. Look how straight she is on the double layout. lands it, doesn't even take a step. You can see her teammates in the background going crazy over the landing.
We'll tabulate the scores, the Wolverines on the vault and the Gophers on the bars. We'll check the team standings in our dual meet. And when we come back, the Gophers move over to the balance beam and the Wolverines on the floor. Stick around. And a programming note to not miss the biggest conference event of the year. Illinois hosting teams from all around the Big Ten Conference, competing for individual and team titles. It's the Women's Big Ten Gymnastics Championship, and it's coming to you live. Mark it down. That's live on Saturday, March 21st. We'll be there in Champaign, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, only here on the Big Ten Network. Best on the vault for the Wolverines, Kylie Botterman, 9.850. And for the Gophers here at home, Furukawa did the best on the uneven bars, and the personable Alexis Russell, 9.825. Team standings, Eddie, what have you learned halfway through?
Well, it's a very tight race right now. Minnesota had a huge bar score, almost went 49, while Michigan did have to count a 9.55 on vault, and Michigan holds that lead just by over 2/10.
The super sophomore out of Monterrey, Mexico, Ana Balboa for the Gophers.
In the Gophers' last competition against Denver, they had to count 2 falls. They had 3 falls total, so they'll be looking this week to get back on track. They can't swing without series, that's a requirement.
Competed on the vault and the beam in her freshman year. Best this year on the beam, 9.825.
So far off to a good start. To a full turn, another requirement. Of course, that full turn was kind of interesting. She did it off of 1 foot, where most gymnasts will start with 2.
How important is ankle strength on the beam?
Well, ankle strength is incredibly important because, for one, prevents a lot of injuries, and 2, you can actually hear the gymnasts when their feet hit the beam. There's not a lot of give there. And a good routine. A little bit of pike down on the dismount, a small step, but the Gophers take it.
Some international experience for Miss Balboa, competing in the World Cup in France back in '06.
You can see just how little room there is for error on the beam. That was a back handspring to a loud step out that we saw.
Jackie Kramer, the junior out of West Hills, New York, for the Wolverines, who are trailing halfway through this meet, on the floor for Michigan.
And also the double pike, nicely done. Good jump series.
What percent of the floor is dance? What percent is gymnastics? And when do you breathe?
Well, it's about half and half with the dance and the tumbling, which makes it even that much more difficult because you're never stopping in the entire routine. You're either dancing or tumbling. You have to always keep taking deep breaths, especially when you get to the corner right before your tumbling pass.
But there are some spots where you can get your head and your breath together, kind of like figure skating, right?
A little bit. And one thing you'll see is that a lot of these girls will go down to the floor once or twice in their routine, and that's a good area to try to sneak in a breath that nobody can see.
Ana Balboa on the beam for the Gophers, 9.700.
This is a good routine so far. She's preparing for her last pass, but she's had a little bit of trouble on in the past. Round off 1.5, punch layout, well done. A good start for the Wolverines on floor.
Jacqueline Kramer, who competed in 11 meets during her freshman campaign, helping Michigan to the 2007 Big Ten title. Second pass, Eddie.
Right here, we see a whip half to a front layout with a full twist.
On the beam for the Gophers, the sophomore from nearby Plymouth, Minnesota, Kendra Elm.
She's getting ready for her series here. The handspring step out, back layout.
What are the specific acrobatic skills necessary to do well on the beams?
Well, every girl does have to have a series, and that can be back handspring to a layout, which we saw from the last 2 beam competitors, or you can reverse it around, do a layout to back handspring. Basically 2 acrobatic skills, but that's the most common series that you'll see. Front tuck, done nicely. To a full turn. So far, no problems. To back layout, full with a step.
Jacqueline Kramer, and what she did on the floor for Michigan, 9.700. Coach Stevenson was under-impressed with Kendall Elm on the beam. Where did she have trouble?
Where here she looks pretty good. In her series, back layout step out to back handspring layout step out. A tiny little bobble there, as you can see, but shouldn't get hit too hard for it.
On the floor, up next for the Wolverines, the senior out of Aurora, Illinois.
She's actually roommates with teammate Becky Bernard. Both seniors.
Best on the floor so far this season, 9.725.
In 2007, she was University of Michigan's most valuable player.
Is that like a
Great
gymnastics
pass.
Heisman?
For University of Michigan, yes. That first pass was a front Rudy, a front layout with a 1.5 twist to back layout step out. Here we see it right back handspring double pike. Executed well.
What's the extra pad there for, Eddie?
Oh, that's just for safety. You can see that her ankle is taped up, just to prevent her from give her a little bit of cushion, save her ankles a little bit more, which there's no deduction for putting a mat in. And a lot of music that we hear today from the Wolverines was actually done by one of the gymnasts on the men's team at Michigan, Thomas Kelly, who mixed, made, produced most of these routines that we'll see. Gearing up for the last pass. From full to a front tuck. Another good routine from the Wolverines.
Providing some of that senior leadership for Coach Bev, who you saw with a big smile and a hug.
Again, here's the pass, a double pike. Very common in women's gymnastics.
A rising star for the Gophers, Alexis Russell. I asked her before the afternoon meet what her favorite event is and why.
Gymnastics has came, naturally pretty easy, like the skills, but mentally beam has always been a challenge. So, I mean, it always keeps me on my toes. It always makes me so hungry to get into the gym and improve if I had a rough weekend before, and just see how much better I've gotten at beam over time. And I think that one would be my favorite because, when I think I got it down, sometimes it surprises me. So just keep working as hard as I can to make that, the best that it can be. So definitely beam.
Knee injury last year, 10 out of 14 meets for the junior out of South Maplewood, Minnesota. Best on the beam so far this year, 9.825 for Alexis.
And there's that series that we see again. And the Gophers are really knocking out these series today. Switch leap.
On the floor for Michigan, 9.775.
And the full turn requirement.
Eddie, when you competed, did you like it at home, or was there more pressure in front of family and friends?
Oh, I loved it at home. Home, there's no place like home. Home is always the best place to compete. You feel so much more comfortable. Here, you got your friends or your families, everyone there. Every once in a while, you get a couple of professors, and everyone just makes it really comfortable for you. Always nice to hit a routine just to hear your home crowd go crazy. Dismount with the front full, stuck.
Teammates liked it. Alexis Russell. How about her mount? A little unusual.
A very unique mount. A punch front tuck right on the beam.
The junior out of Weddington, North Carolina, and Weddington High School competed for the Southeastern Gymnastics Club. Next for the Wolverines, Jordan Sexton on the floor.
And she's had a little bit of ankle and knee problems earlier this year. Just coming back. A 2.5 twist. Saw Coach Scott Sherman in the back giving her a little bit of support. A hometowner from Minnesota, has some family here watching. His brother and nieces and nephews. Front full to a front pike. So far, so good.
Best on the floor this year for Jordan Sexton and the Wolverines, 9.800. About 15 Big Ten titles for Coach Bev there on the left-hand side of the screen.
Impressive. And does a 1.5. Took a couple steps on the 1.5.
Talk about Bev Plotke. She, of course, was first-team All-America gymnast at Alabama back in '84. Lettered 3 years at West Virginia. NCAA National Coach of the Year in '94. Bev Plotke for Michigan. So we're halfway through the third rotation with the Gophers on the beam and the Wolverines on the floor. When we come back, next up, Angela Walker for Minnesota, Sarah Curtis for Michigan. Of course, men's gymnastics makes its season debut right here on your Big Ten Network. The Iowa Hawkeyes go head-to-head with the top-ranked Michigan Wolverines Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, only here on the Big Ten Network. Angela Walker, the senior out of Houston, Texas, on the beam now for Minnesota. Alexis Russell on what she did for the Gophers, 9.775.
And on this event, the Stevensons really expect a lot of leadership from her and Carbajal, the senior duos, to come through big for the Gophers on beam this season.
Talked to her before the meeting. She kind of reflected, Angela did, on her senior year and said, you know, it's my last chance to step out on the competition floor and show the world what makes a very passionate gymnast. And then she kind of grinned and said, and also a true Gopher athlete. School pride rises up, huh?
A lot of pride, especially in the Big Ten. You have Michigan and Minnesota, two very prestigious schools, really pride their teams on both tradition.
Solid so far, Eddie.
So far, no mistakes that I've seen. This could give a lot of momentum to the Gophers if she can nail the rest of this routine. Seems very relaxed. Cartwheel, step through, full step. Big routine for the Gophers. They are moving in the right direction right now.
Third in her high school class of 721, graduated summa cum laude at Langham Creek High School, coming right at you.
Again, we see the back handspring step out, layout step out. Solid.
Hugs from Coach Jim Stevenson. On the floor, Sarah Curtis, fourth up in the rotation on the floor for the Wolverines.
Last year against Minnesota on this event, she scored a 9.925. Huge double pike. And she actually trains a full twisting double back, 2 flips, 1 twist. But right now, just to keep her a little bit healthy earlier in the season, the coach is just having her do the double pike. But expect to see that full twisting double back later on in the year.
Really power-packed at an even 5 feet, huh?
She brings in a lot of power to the floor, as we can see. That second pass is a front layout to a front full. And I've had the opportunity to see her tumble in practice, and she can do just about every single pass. I've seen her even do a
8.25, excuse me, Eddie, for Angela Walker there on the beam.
I've seen her do a double-double, 2 flips, 2 twists, all in one jump. Amazing thing to see.
Can music and energy sometimes influence the judges?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you love to have a routine that's going to give some energy to the crowd. You know, anytime the crowd gets to get in there and clap, add some energy, that's always good. The judges always love that. And a big dismount, right up back handspring, double back.
Sarah Curtis, the junior, her best on the floor this year for the Wolverines, 9.875.
This was a big routine.
Big cause.
Mounting with the double pike. All of her tumbling is just big. Think you can jump that high?
With springs. From nearby Eden Prairie, Minnesota, home of the Minnesota Vikings, the sophomore, Jamie Bullock.
So far, the Gophers have been solid on beam.
They've been pretty solid all night. I mean, they came out with confidence, and they haven't really faltered. Michigan got off to that shaky start on the uneven bars.
They have. You can really see the confidence overflowing in each event. Each routine just keeps getting better and better. She's got a brace on her back, too. She's been having a little bit of back problems, and that gives her a little bit more support. Takes away a little bit more of the pain. Limits the motion of the lower spine. And Meg Stevenson did mention that she has struggled a little bit with durability and injuries, but it doesn't seem to be bothering her now.
9.825 for Sarah Curtis and the Wolverines on the floor.
Looking for another big finish. Front aerial step out, immediate dismount. Great combination. You don't see that too often.
How about the right foot on that last jump? I mean, she's just started to teeter a little bit, got it back, and never wavered, huh?
A little bit. She does a front aerial to an immediate dismount, a little bit pike, but she sticks it.
Meg Stevenson liked it. 17 years she's been coaching with husband Jim on the left-hand side of your screen right there. Well, just as Carmelina Carbajal is the face of the Gopher gymnastics program, I think Kylie Boderman is looking for bigger things in Ann Arbor. Huh? She'll become the face of this Wolverine gymnastics team.
You know, she very well could. This is her first all-around competition as a collegiate gymnast, and this could be the big breakthrough. It'll be interesting to see what pass she's done here. She also has trained a full twisting double back. We might see a double pike. No, the full twisting double back. And this is one of those high energy routines you were talking about. Great music, great dance.
Jamie Bullock, what she did for the Gophers on the beam.
And she really plays to the crowd, plays to the judges. Brings a lot of energy to her routine, a lot of big tumbling, just like we saw from Curtis. And she's hitting those passes. In the background, you can see teammates dancing. That's how much energy she brings to this routine.
Yeah, they're kind of mimicking the routine, right?
And you get a little ninja roll there, too. Did they see you warm that up before?
Not me, ever.
Double tuck dismount. That was a big routine. Great tumbling, great dance, great energy. You gotta love it.
Coach Bev loved it. Let's see Kylie's reaction here.
Carmelina Carbajal.
Great routine.
Wolverines
This was the dismount.
trying to steal one here on the campus of the University of Minnesota. Hugs from Coach Bev as we go to the captain for the Gophers, Carmelina Carbajal, next up on the beam.
She tied for third place in a dual meet against Denver. Scored a 9.8. very confident.
Won 6 beam titles last year. The team's highest scorer on the beam at 11 of 14 meets for the Gophers.
And she's right on. She's solid.
Kylie Boderman on the floor for Michigan, 9.875.
Great combination. Dismount. Another stuck landing. That's the key to winning these meets, especially when it's really close to sticking those landings.
Did you see her reaction after she stuck the landing? I mean, she exploded with emotion. Watch her feet.
That was a full turn, right to the dismount. No movement with the feet.
All Big Ten last year. You saw that big, broad smile, looking for all Big Ten honors again. The captain, Carmelina Carbajal. Tatiana Tinarego, now the senior from Miami, on the floor for the Wolverines.
Another big Wolverine tumbler.
9.875, her best score on the floor so far this year.
She's been mounting with an Arabian double tuck. In her last meet, she nailed the Arabian double tuck. Let's see if she can do it again today.
Describe, Eddie, what that move is.
We'll see it right here. It's a round up by handspring. Step forward like you're going backwards. You do 2 flips forward, and she nails it again. It's almost like doing a double front.
So you nailed that. You've got the momentum going. I mean, look at the teammates, the coach, Carmelina, and what she did in the beam. 9.900.
And 1.5 to a punch tuck.
Yeah, sometimes you watch Coach Bev and you get the feeling she wants to get out there on the floor and compete as well. I mean, she's still got that fire, doesn't she?
She does. Sometimes you have to hold her back. She wants to get in there and do the routine herself. Getting support in the background. Double pike dismount. Very nicely done. Another good routine for the Wolverines.
Mentioned Coach Bev, NCAA Coach of the Year. Husband Jim, a strength and conditioning coach for the Wolverines in Ann Arbor.
Here's the pass we were talking about, an Arabian double tuck. Solid.
Good effort for the 21-year-old senior. Well, Eddie, it was tight after 2 rotations. We'll tabulate the scores from the 3rd, and when we come back, the 4th and final rotation. The Gophers at home on the floor, and the Wolverines finish up on the beam here in Minnesota. It's out, but it's bitter cold outside. This morning, Eddie Humphrey was like alligator arms when the check came at Al's breakfast shop. The menu, power pack. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Big Ten Conference and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this championship may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Big Ten Conference. The results of the Wolverines on the floor. Boderman was the best. Kylie with a 9.875, and Carmelina continues to excel for the Gophers here at home. The senior captain, a 9.900 on the balance beam. But Eddie, after 3 rotations, a lot closer than it was a year ago. Gophers doing well, huh?
A whole lot closer. The Gophers really came out on fire on beam, which was a big change from their last meet against Denver. They came out on fire, and they hope to finish strong on floor.
Hunneth Lohr on the beam now for the Wolverines.
Wolverines looking to get off to a big start here on the beam. And an early fall.
So that puts pressure on herself, Eddie, but also on her fellow teammates now with 5 more Wolverines to follow.
It does, because now you have to count 5 scores, so you need all 5 gymnasts to stay on the beam. That you don't have to count a fall, hopefully.
And Michigan really trying to protect the narrow lead, right?
They are. It's a very slim lead, and beam's a tough event to end on. A lot of pressure.
Of course, last year Michigan had a huge lead.
You know, they had a big lead, and it was easy because they didn't have any pressure on them. But now they've got a little pressure putting on them right now, and they have to stay on the beam to win it.
Who gave you the best advice when you were competing as a gymnast as far as how to handle pressure?
You know, pressure is never easy, but being with both my brothers were gymnasts and had a lot of experience, they just told me to go out and do it just like you do in practice. You know, it's a little bit different because you're the only one out there and you're doing it in front of a whole crowd right now, but the biggest thing they told me to do is just go and perform. Have fun with the crowd.
Hunneth won a beam and a floor exercise title last year as a junior. The senior Hunneth Lohr had a little bobble early.
Besides this mistake here, it was a great routine. It's unfortunate that she fell on that skill.
Well, we'll see if the Gophers now can come from behind in this 4th and final rotation. First up, the sophomore by way of Japan in Maryville, Tennessee, Yuri Nagai.
Now it's a 2.5 punch front. She falls, and that's going to be a ½ point deduction, 5/10. Again, a tough way to start out your lineup with a fall. Both the Wolverines and Gophers start with a fall. But the important thing, especially for the young gymnasts at home, is that when you have an early fall like that, it's important that you stay with the routine, because you never know. You could have another athlete that comes up after you, might have 2 or 3 falls, and your score might have to count. So it's important to keep going strong from start to finish.
Hunneth Lohr on the beam for the Wolverines. 9.150 after that bobble. But Nagai's had some problems here for the Gophers, who started this 4th and final rotation trailing. You know, to be honest, Eddie, even her teammates are a little flat here at Yuri's performance.
A little bit, which is a lot different from what we saw them on the last event on beam. On beam, they came out a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and it showed in their performance. Let's see how her teammates react to that.
As a performer, you know when you've just been average, don't you?
You do, and it's always tough because you still want to keep your energy and keep the positive vibes coming for your team, but it's always tough to recover from a fall.
After a stumble early by Hunneth Lohr, Kylie Boderman now up on the beam for the Wolverines.
Up on her last event. Full turn, a requirement. Getting ready for her series. Quick handshake step out to a layout step out. Form nicely. You see she has her ankles heavily taped there. She has had some ankle problems in the past.
Coach Bev at the other end of the beam. She's also got the stopwatch working. What is she timing?
She's timing the routine just to be safe. Every once in a while, the judge might have a second off or so. And if you go overtime, then a deduction incurs. But just to be safe, the coach will have a stop time just to make sure that doesn't happen.
Why does the head coach do that, not an assistant?
You know, sometimes they will have a head and an assistant just to be safe. But Bev is the coach of beam, so she usually takes care of that duty. Front tuck on the beam. Little bobble to the side, but a very nice recovery for Michigan on beam.
Kylie was first team All-America on the bars, second team on the vault last year as a freshman. Kendra Elm now as the Gophers try to come from behind here at home. The sophomore from nearby Plymouth, Minnesota. Best on the floor this year, 9.750.
And an interesting thing to watch from Minnesota is their dance. Coach Meg Stevenson says she would put her music of her team and her choreography up against any team in the country. They really pride themselves on strong dance, good choreography.
The guy on the floor, 9.055.
A lot of classic dancers for Minnesota. Some of them even have a lot of dance background.
Well, you talk about Meg Stevenson. She was an assistant for 5 years. 12 years she's been the co-head coach with her husband. She's in charge of the choreography, the dance, the floor, and the beam. And as far as being co-coaches, she said it allows us to focus more intently on the separate aspects of the program and then capitalizing on the strengths, thus being able to pay closer attention.
It does. Jim and Meg are a great combination together, and you can really see how that has really been a positive aspect for their team this year.
Meg there is the past president of the National Association of Collegiate Gymnasts.
Like I said before, a lot of smart athletes competing today from both squads. Last pass, whip, 1.5, punch front. A 3-skill combination. Good routine for Minnesota.
13 like and 14 meets last year. She competed in the floor exercise, and the last pass.
We see the whip to the back 1.5 to the punch front. And those combination moves, you really have to stay on your toes so that you can keep rebounding quicker and moving forwards.
Now on the beam for the Wolverines, Jordan Sexton.
Very nice clean lines. Strong toe point. Front aerial. Back handspring step out. Nicely done. No bobbles at all.
When you're up on the beam like that, Eddie, how do you block out everything else going on around you? I mean, you've got camera people, you got people going up and down the scores, all sorts of activity.
Well, you know, you do this so much in practice that you just get used to any distraction. You're so far into your zone that all you notice is you and whatever piece of equipment that you're on. Bring up for a dismount. Front full. And a small step. Great routine for the Wolverines.
Won one beam title last year for Coach Bev. Her best so far on the beam this year, a 9.200 on the front flip.
I really like this combination. A front aerial to meet back handspring.
I think Bev liked it a lot.
It was a big routine.
This gal will celebrate her 23rd birthday come February 26th. The senior out of Houston, Angela Walker, on the floor.
Again, the Stevensons are looking for leadership from her and senior teammate Carbajal to lead this team on floor.
Some of those dance moves Eddie was talking about.
Very interesting music. 2.5, punch front.
Kendra Elm for the Gophers on the floor, 9.725. Sexton on the beam for the Wolverines, 9.800.
I really like the selection of music and the dance incorporated into it as well. You can see exactly what Meg Stevenson was talking about when it comes to choreography, dance, and music. A whip double full, hop on the dismount or on the landing.
Any deduction on that hop?
That hop will be at least 1/10, depending on how strict the judge is. They can take 2 or 3/10 on the landing. Another great routine for the Gophers. They're not going to make it easy for the Wolverines.
9.400 has been Angela's best score so far this year on the floor. Last pass now.
Front handspring. Front layout with a full twist to a front tuck.
Minnesota had a slight lead after 3, but Hunneth Lohr bobbled on the beam for the Wolverines. Minnesota trying to come from behind at home. When we come back, the outstanding junior Alexis Russell for the Gophers. Back on the banks of the mighty Mississippi at the University of Minnesota, a programming note. Saturday, witness the skill and grace of some of the nation's best women's gymnasts as Michigan State and some of the NCAA top-ranked teams like Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio State face off. We'll be there Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time from Columbus, right here on your Big Ten Network. Kelsey now, the junior out of Ames, Iowa, will have her 21st birthday on February the 4th. Her best on the beam so far this year, 9.800.
She's a 3-time Iowa Gymnast of the Year. Oh, and she's off the beam.
What about the knees being taped? Does that affect your performance on the beam?
Well, she's used to having her knees taped. She's had a lot of knee problems in the past. Actually, at the regional last year in Oregon State, she tore MCL, which was a big loss for the Wolverines. Still has had a little bit of problems with them in the past, and that's why she's taped up today.
Angela Walker, 9.775 on the floor. So Kelsey with a bobble. Hunneth Lohr got things off for a bad beginning for Michigan on the beam. And again, that narrow Wolverine lead as Minnesota trying to end quite a run by Michigan as far as domination. We talked about at the top of the telecast.
And with those 2 falls, that lead could very well be erased right now. It's going to come down to the last routine. A good finish for Kelsey.
And here's Kelsey's little bobble.
And she does a side aerial, and her hips are just off center, which takes her off the beam.
Out of Cardinals Gymnastics Club in Iowa, one that got away from Hawkeye coach Larissa Libby. The 20-year-old junior Alexis Russell now, maybe some momentum for the Gophers.
Look for a lot of power in this routine. Double pike. Big tumbler.
Coach Jim Stevenson watching there intently. His Gophers trying to come from behind here at home. We talked earlier about Alexis Russell certainly having the personality and some of the leadership skills. Someone's got to step up and fill some big shoes for Carmelina Carbajal, who will graduate.
And it looks like she's getting an early start on that.
It's funny, though. Coach Stevenson talked about it. It doesn't have to be a senior elected captain.
No, it doesn't. And that goes the same for any team. Anybody who can step up is willing to fill in those shoes.
9.075 for Kelsey on the beam for the Wolverines.
And the Wolverines will have to count a fall. A great routine. And the Gophers are really taking advantage of that fall.
Well, like going to the 17th hole all square in a golf match now, right? Things are knotted up. First pass here by Alexis.
Run up a handspring, double pike. Well done.
Nailed a couple of 9.825s last year. So pressure on the 5-foot frame of Sarah Curtis, the junior for the Michigan Wolverines.
side aerial. Sarah Curtis is studying to be a doctor. Hopes to take the MCAT this year. Hoping to cut up a big score for the Wolverines. So far, this is a big routine.
Very poised, very confident.
She's dismounted with a double back before. Let's see if she does that again. Big dismount.
And some high fives from the Wolverines, trying to hang on to a narrow lead.
And that's a routine that they're going to need to see from the rest of their girls if they want to hang on to this. Take a look at the dismount. Nice strong punch on the ground, on the beam, and just a small step on the dismount. But the Wolverines will take it.
We talked at the top of the telecast about Michigan's domination in their dual meets against Minnesota. So before the meet, I asked the senior captain of the Gophers about the negativity and to reflect on that streak.
My freshman year, we beat Michigan at Big Tens. So that was a high point for my career, I would say. And it doesn't make me nervous at all because you can't worry about anyone but yourself out there. And I know that I can do the best that I'm going to do, and I know my team knows that too. So we're not going to worry about it, and we're just going to do the best, and I know the best is going to win today.
This could be something special. The captain, Carmelina Carbajal, on the floor. Position number 5 for Minnesota.
She had 10 scores last year of a 9-8 or better. Front tuck through, double pike. Oh, barely stepped out of bounds.
Significance?
Well, she's going to get a small deduction for the hop and a 10th deduction for the step out of bounds.
Sarah Curtis, 9.800 for the Wolverines on the beam.
But she still wants to finish this routine strong because it's still a routine that the Gophers can still count on. Front layout, punch front layout. Nice high leaps. Getting ready for the last pass. And there you see she takes that deep breath that we were talking about earlier. Double pike, well done, good finish. The Gophers will count that score. Well done.
She's going to be a little frustrated. She sets the bar unusually high.
She does. She has really high expectations for herself and doesn't settle for anything less than perfect.
There's the deep breath right there. And the focus.
And double pike, that's a very hard dismount to finish with, but she does it very well.
In the anchor position now for the Wolverines on the beam. You can only speculate. They've had 2 errors so far. Kelsey Knutson and Hunneth Lohr. Tatiana Tinarego. Eddie, you said it'll come right down to this last performance by Tatiana on the beam and by Beatty for Minnesota on the floor.
Yeah, it will come down to this last routine. It is very close right now. Small deduction for lifting her leg up, but stays on. Straddle jump we saw there. stays on.
Carmelina, 9.725 for the Gophers.
Everything left with the dismount.
What do you give this performance so far for Tatiana?
So far, it's an A. See what she does with the dismount. Another double tuck. Big dismount, just a step on the landing.
But will it be enough to give Michigan the lead? They had a narrow lead after the third rotation.
Here's the double bag. And you see she takes a step on the landing that'll cost her a 10th. And it's going to come down to this routine.
Talk about pressure then, the 21-year-old senior, but you want a senior in your anchor position if it's coming down, if the whole dual meet comes down to this, huh?
You do. You want someone who's experienced, who's done this for 4 years, to have the best opportunity to bring out the best routine.
She says she likes her moment in the spotlight. The spotlight's on her right now.
Well, this is her time. See how she handles it with the first pass. Double putt. Oh! That was a bad landing. I think that's going to be it for her. We can only hope that she's okay. That was a very short landing.
Yeah, that was painful, and you could see it right away. Her best on the floor this year had been 9.725, and what went wrong?
Well, it looked good in the air, but you see she opened up early and jammed, looks like the left ankle. Good takeoff, and she starts opening up right there. Just early, just didn't stay in it.
Yeah, you needed the extra mat there. Huh?
And that's a good thing. Hopefully that'll save her from a really serious injury.
Boy, it got quiet here in the sports pavilion. Now, what happens if she's unable to finish?
Well, they will still judge the routine. They're just going to judge it on what they've seen so far, which they'll have to drop this routine. So they will have to count the first routine. That was a fall. You see the open landing. And for landings, it's always better to over-rotate than to under-rotate for that reason, that you don't sprain an ankle or have anything worse than that.
Well, and she missed at least one meet last year because of an ankle injury, and maybe a little tender.
Could possibly be.
Tina Rego and how Tatiana did on the beam for the Wolverines, 9.725. So the band strikes up, the crowd get back into it. The calculators come out. The Wolverines and the Gophers in a dual meet. First conference action for Minnesota here at home. Great action in a dual meet. The Wolverines and the Gophers. Michigan led after 3. Some bobbles by the girls from Ann Arbor. One did not finish for the home team. A cliffhanger. Minnesota and Michigan. The results next. A good one here at the Sports Pavilion. Dual meet between the Wolverines and the Gophers, all pointing to the Big Ten championship, which you'll see on the Big Ten Network. Wolverines on the beam, shaky, but they might have pulled it off, huh?
Well, the Wolverines had a tough start, starting out with a 9.15 from 100th floor fall, but they recovered well, finishing with Tatiana, who nailed a great routine.
Meanwhile, Minnesota finished up on the floor, had it going. Carmelina Carbajal had a little stutter, and then, unfortunately, disaster for Jade Beatty.
And we can only hope that Beatty's okay. Opened up a little bit early on a landing, landed short, so we hope that she's fine. But with that, if she had stayed on her feet, it would have put it a lot closer.
So another win for the Wolverines. They continue their domination, impressive over the Gophers, who were trying to pull one out at home.
And just like any Wolverine and Gopher competition, it was a hard-fought battle down to the very last routine. But the Wolverines pulled it out, 194.894 to 194.425.
An honor to be with the Bo Schembechler of Michigan Wolverines ladies gymnastics. Another big victory. You kind of came from behind. A month into your new season, what have you learned about your squad so far?
Well, we don't have a lot of depth this year. We're small in numbers, but we're very, very talented, lacking a little bit in experience in some of the places. So for us, it's a matter of gaining confidence and being able to put a complete meet together. Last weekend, this week, we had 3 wonderful events and then, had a problem on one. I know it was a neck-and-neck meet all the way through, and I hope the athlete from Minnesota is going to be okay. I didn't really see exactly what happened, but, sometimes they're nail-biters like that.
You were a great competitor. You've obviously become even a better coach. How would Coach Bev define the word pressure, and what do you tell your gals if you sense they're feeling pressure?
One of the things that we try to work on a lot is kind of getting into our own zone and not paying attention to what else is going on. I don't want my girls to look at scores. I don't want them to watch the other team. That's my job. And I have people, doing that for me and giving me updates. But so they shouldn't feel the pressure, because if they're doing what they do every single week, week in and week out, it shouldn't matter what the situation is. Given that, I know that they still feel a little bit, and that's just part of the sport and learning how to, I pull them together and I say, how good are we? Are we going to, pull this out? And I thought we had some exceptional team routines at the end.
Thanks, Coach. So Bev's Wolverines, they had the lead, lost it, and hung on in the 3rd and 4th rotation. And Sarah Curtis picked right up where she left off last year. First team all Big Ten.
She did. She had a brilliant performance, finishing in 1st, her 2nd win of the season, tying teammate Kylie Botterman in her first all-around performance as a collegiate gymnast.
And we talked about Kylie Botterman perhaps becoming the next fresh face for the Wolverines. That's it from Minneapolis. The Wolverines win again. For Eddie Humphrey and our entire Big Ten Network women's gymnastics crew here, a reminder the preceding has been an exclusive presentation of the Big Ten Network as we point you toward the Big Ten Women's Gymnastics Championships live in March.